Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am the oldest daughter of a heart surgeon and a cardiac care nurse. Given my parents' professions, I became aware early in life of the impact of emergencies and unexpected death. And so I decided young to live my life with no regrets. So far, I have kept that promise to myself, but even so, I do wish there are 3 things that I could change. First, I wish I'd learned to play football. My dad raised my sisters and myself to be Green Bay Packers fans. This is a picture of my dad and I watching our first game together. I've spent countless hours as an athletic trainer on the football sidelines, but watching to learn is nothing like learning to play. In an effort to improve my hands-on game skills, I went to a clinic for women put on by the Indianapolis Colts. The event included dinner with the team, a facilities tour, film analysis, and team drills. My first drill was a defensive match against center Jeff Saturday. He got down in a 3-point stance. His opponent got down in her 3-point stance. Jeff's teammate, acting as a coach, blew a whistle, and bodies were supposed to cross a theoretical line of scrimmage and collide. 495 of the 500 women in attendance were there to meet Peyton Manning and get a date. So most of the women in my group weren't really taking this drill that seriously. When I arrived at the front of the line, Jeff looked at me and said, "Hit me like you mean it." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yeah." I settled into my stance, and when the whistle blew, I shot across the line and laid Jeff flat out on his back. When I came back through the line the second time, he looked at me and said, "Right, you." He grabbed a tackle bag, settled down into a much more serious 3-point stance, and this time when the whistle blew, I felt like I'd run into a solid steel wall. At least both of us ended up in a pile on the turf. My second wish is that I found a more constructive outlet for my love of speed. It's not that I get a lot of speeding tickets, but I do get pulled over from time to time. One particularly less than stellar day, I was driving down the highway, finally starting to relax into the rhythm and purr of 80-something miles per hour, when I saw the distinctive Indiana Highway Patrol car crest on the distant horizon. I most definitely saw the officer pass me on the opposite side of the median, and I was more than a little irritated when he came blazing up my tail, lights flashing and sirens wailing. At my window, he asked, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I said, "Yes, I was speeding." He said, "Do you feel guilty?" I said, "No, I do not." He asked, "Why not?" I said, "Because I find guilt to be a colossal waste of my time and energy." He said, "If you don't feel guilty, why did you make eye contact with me across the median?" And I said, "Because I've always had a thing for men in uniform, and you're hot, sir." As I sat strangling Lieutenant 2 out of my steering wheel, silently chastising myself for actually fully speaking my mind, I think the officer was trying to figure out what to do with what had just come out of my mouth. Finally, he said, "Okay, slow down. Have a nice day." And he awkwardly ambled back to his patrol car. My third wish is that I'd taken my mom to spring training. My mom was an avid Oakland A's fan. She knew every player's first and last name. She'd watch the games on TV and yell at the set like a parent getting after an errant child. Like a loving parent who knew that her child was aware and listening, but ignoring her every word. I used to tease her about the fact that she was going to have a stroke and die in front of the TV, yelling at a baseball game. Every Mother's Day, we'd take my mom to an A's game. We'd sit 7 to 10 rows behind home plate, and Dad would bring the newspaper because he really could care less about baseball. My mom would call out every player, by first and last name, middle if she could find it, every time they screwed up at home plate. In a motherly way, of course, in great deal, from top to bottom of their at-bat, including how they should fix it before their next up-at-bat. By the 4th or 5th inning, the players were squirming, looking for any way to go back to the dugout besides past my mom, if they didn't make it to first base. The umpires weren't safe either. Dad now admits there were several times he was afraid he was going to have to peel her off several umpires after they made calls she didn't like. He also confesses he sometimes didn't want to sit next to her at mine and my sister's high school sporting events because she was so vocal. My time to become a football superstar has passed, But I may yet find a way to channel my inner speed demon, and I will go to spring training on my own. Unfortunately, Mom won't be there. She died 3 years ago after a 12-year fight with Pick's disease. Because of my mom, and especially for me, I will continue to live with no regrets. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.